What does joy look like to you? Maybe joy looks like this. Little kid with an ice cream cone. Or maybe last week when we were drawing some Powerball numbers, joy to you would have looked like this. Or maybe joy is your team winning it all. Or joy is that guy you've been dating for way too long, finally getting down on one knee and popping the question. What does joy look like to you? I ask because Jesus promises joy. One of the great promises of Jesus to his people is that we will be known as a people who don't just have some joy, but he says our joy is full, it is overflowing. Jesus promises joy. Look again quickly at John 15. He says this to you, all these things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. Think about that. There is, to my knowledge, no other religious, spiritual figure or leader who makes this promise. Not Confucius, not Muhammad, not the Buddha, not any of our new social influencers, not Mel Robbins if you're really big into her, or Gary Vaynerchuk, whoever it is for you. None of our spiritual gurus, our inspirational leaders, promise joy like this. Just Jesus. Jesus says, if you belong to me, the hallmark of my people will be joy. It'll be joy. So what do we mean when we use that word? Well, the scriptures, when they talk about the gift of joy, as Jesus promises it, has a very specific definition in mind, and as you might guess, it's different than what we tend to mean when we talk about joy in today's modern world. For the sake of our discussion today, we'll define biblical joy like this. Joy, as Jesus promises it, is a deep, resilient confidence in the goodness of God. I'll say that again. Deep as in foundational, resilient as in unshakable, confidence in the goodness of God. It's a confidence in the goodness of God that bursts forth sometimes in emotions like happiness or elation, or actions like praise and celebration, or attributes like endurance and patience in the face of pain. But joy is bigger than those things. It's deeper and more foundational than those things. One of many images that comes to mind when I think of the joy that Jesus promises to his followers is the image of a beach ball. Just go with me for a second on this. Imagine it's a beautiful 97-degree fall day in Houston. And you're floating in the swimming pool in the backyard, and your arms are wrapped around a beach ball. Now, as you float in that pool with your arms wrapped around the beach ball, it doesn't matter who cannonballs next to you, you're gonna float right there on the surface. And it doesn't matter which one of your kids is crawling on you, pulling on you, with your arms wrapped around that beach ball, you're buoyant, you are at the surface. And even if something was strong enough as you held on to that beach ball to pull you under, eventually it would let go, and what would happen to you? You would shoot to the top, you would shoot right to the surface. The joy that Jesus promises is a spiritual buoyancy that no matter what jumps in the water, what pulls on us or pulls us down, keeps us at the surface, and it makes us ultimately, makes us a people who can swim and stay, no matter what storm comes. We are unsinkable. We're unsinkable. That's one of the images that come to me when I think of joy. And I'm sure you've noticed that as I describe this joy of Jesus, that we live in a world that is starving for this kind of joy. It may not use this word, it may not know that that's what it needs, but we live in a world that is desperate for some kind of foundational reality that will give them a sense of peace and steadiness in our bad, broken, and evil world. And we are surrounded by people who are chasing after some kind of unsinkable joy, ultimately to come up empty-handed. And perhaps this is part of your story. There was maybe a season in your life where you were chasing after joy only to come up empty-handed. Maybe for you it was a series of relationships. It was heartache after hookup after heartache after hookup. And it's been person after person thinking, well, if I can find the one, and this one, I promise, this one is the one, then I'll be happy and whole and I'll be good. Or maybe for you it was politics and pundits, and you gave yourself over to the far side of this or the far side of that, and you thought that if I can kind of master this worldview and win every argument, then I'll be whole, I'll be okay. Or maybe it was self-help and making the most of your life and maximizing your skills and the one existence that you've been given, and you dove into books and conferences and speakers who could help you become the best possible version of yourself, and who told you over and over again, you just have to satisfy yourself, satisfy the self, look out for you, gratify what you want, be who you want to be, and you chased after that. You bought that message of just indulging the self only to come up empty-handed on joy. Or perhaps for you, it's just that constant rush of dopamine and distraction as you open up DraftKings 10 times a day, or you scroll on TikTok, or you're sharing and comparing relentlessly on Instagram. We are surrounded by a world, we are part of a world that is hungry for, that is chasing after joy. And what we know is that whatever little bit of peace or steadiness or wholeness that we can find, it is very fleeting. It doesn't last long, and even when we have it, it is very easily snuffed out by even an ounce, an inkling of pain. This is part of what C.S. Lewis talks about in a book called The Weight of Glory. He talks about how we hunger after these gifts of God, thinking that they will satisfy us in a way that really only God can. And he states it eloquently, beautifully. I want to share some of it with you now. He says this: the books or music, or think relationships, apps, whatever it is for you, the books or music in which we thought the beauty was located will betray us if we trust in them. These things are good images of what we really desire, but if they are mistaken for the thing itself, they turn into dumb idols, breaking the hearts of their worshipers. For they are not the thing itself. They are only, and I love this line, they are only the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have not yet visited. C.S. Lewis is saying, seek true joy in anything other than God, and you will end up heartbroken. Full transparency, I know this all too well. Because for a long season of my life, I gave myself over to something that I thought was going to give me absolute, utter, true joy, only to come up empty-handed every single time. You see, and maybe you don't know this about me. When I was growing up, I was the biggest fan of the Detroit Lions. When I was a kid, every September was spent mowing the lawn, and every October and November and into December was spent shoveling the sidewalk with radio on my ears, listening to every down, every play of the Lions, thinking this is our year. We have Barry Sanders, we have Herman Moore, we have Rodney Peete. One year we had Eric Kramer, he was fine. But this is our year, and friends, I'll tell you, it was never our year. Except for maybe this year. This might be. At best, the gifts that we chase after can offer us a glimpse of the joy that God provides. What we need are not the gifts. What we need is the giver. That's what we need. Now, what does it mean for us to actually nurture this joy? So if Jesus gives us the real joy that can really satisfy us and steady us in a crazy and evil world, how do we nurture that and get more of that joy? Well, this is where Jesus' teaching in John 15 comes in. Let's go back to his promise, starting at verse 5. Jesus says, I'm the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. This is Jesus telling us how joy is cultivated among his disciples. He says, I am the vine, and you are the what? You are the branches. Remember that. So as a branch, stay connected, stay resting in the vine. Rest in and rely on me. Now, vines and vineyards are very common imagery in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, where the vine is typically, almost exclusively in reference to Israel. Israel, God's people, were the vine, they were the vineyard. But now, Jesus is changing the metaphor. And Jesus says, I'm the vine. I'm the vine, not you. I'm the vine, and you are the branches. So what is Jesus saying? Jesus is saying, I am the centerpiece of God's kingdom. I am the heart of this family, not you. The gift of belonging and the benefits of being one of God's kids, it flows through me, it flows through Jesus. You just receive. I do all the doing. All the blessing and benefits come through me. I'm the vine. I do all the doing, you do all the receiving. Rest in me and receive everything that you need from me. And if you insist that you are your own vine, that through your own power, you can produce the fruits that lead to a truly flourishing, God-honoring life, the fruit that you produce will ultimately be temporary and worthless. It'll be thrown away in the end. You have to rely on me in order to produce the fruits that matter and last, the fruit of love, the fruit of joy, the fruit of faith, the fruit of salvation, the fruit of eternity. Rely on me and you will bear this fruit. So saying all that, here's what we know about joy. Joy, as Jesus promises it, is the result of resting in his work, relying on him. Those of you who know John chapter 15 know that chapter 15 is just a couple of chapters before Jesus heads to the cross, where he is going to die for the sins of the world, and he's going to do the thing that makes everybody right with the Father. And Jesus is saying this as a way of pointing his disciples ahead to that moment, saying, what I'm about to do is going to be sufficient for you and for everyone else. Once I die and I rise, all that's required of you is to rest in the work that I am doing in dying for the sins of the world and rising out of the world's grave. I want you resting in that, relying upon that, drawing strength from that. I'm about to do all that needs to be done. You just rest in me. If you're new to the Christian faith, what I need you to get out of what I just said is that this message that Jesus does all the doing and we simply receive the benefits, that we get all the fruit by merely relying on, resting in him, that this stands at odds with every other religion, spirituality, worldview, or politic that'll ever be presented to you or preached to you. Because all of those can all be boiled down to this: you do, you get. You perform, you achieve, you get a reward. You knock down these 5 pillars, you adhere to these spiritual truths, you live a life that works like this, you avoid these bad things, do these good things, and you will enter nirvana, you will achieve transcendence, you will go to heaven, you'll be right with God. But it all boils down to this: do this and receive. And what is Jesus saying? He's turning that on its head. He's saying, I am doing all that needs to be done. All of it. And you just receive it and rest and rely in me. And people who have this this biblical joy that Jesus is talking about, they are people who are growing in knowledge of that grace. That's what that is. That's what we're talking about when we talk about grace. It's the knowledge that Jesus has done it all and gives it all to us. Forgiveness, faith, eternity, all of it. It's all grace. There are people who are growing in knowledge of that grace and who are growing in their appreciation of the fact that everything else in life is an undeserved gift too. Everything. To grow in joy, to abide in Jesus in a way that cultivates joy, is to have a growing awareness of your own depravity, your own mortality, your weakness, your sinfulness, that doesn't make you feel bad about yourself, but simply allows you to see yourself honestly and then see the greatness of God for what it really is. It is greater and greater every time I realize the depths of my depravity. And then everything else can be seen for what it is. The breath in your lungs, the clothes on your back, the people around you. It is all an undeserved gift. It is all icing on a grace cake. Do you want to grow in biblical joy? Here's what I would tell you to do. I would tell you to have a prayer life that is filled with just two things. Number one, confessing every mistake and basking in God's forgiveness through Jesus Christ. And number two, giving God thanks for every little thing that comes your way. Every little thing. Every little thing from eyelashes to breath to a cup of coffee to your kids to salvation. Small things to the big things. Have a prayer life that is filled with confessing and basking in forgiveness and then giving God thanks all over the place every day. If you have a knowledge of grace and gratitude in life, joy is cultivated. It just is. But there's more. Picking up at verse 7. Jesus says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish and it'll be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. Just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. You recall that Jesus didn't just say that he wants us to have joy. Specifically, he said he wants us to have his joy. And the joy that Jesus has, he says, comes from him resting in the love that the Father has for him, and that Jesus derived joy from doing the will of the Father, which was to save the world through his death and resurrection. So Jesus' joy grew from understanding he was loved by the Father and then pursuing obedience to the Father's plan. And now Jesus is saying to his disciples, to you, just as my joy was made complete in that way, so too will your joy be made complete. Your joy grows by resting in my love and keeping my commandments. So that's the other way that joy is nurtured in the life of a follower of Jesus. Biblical joy is nurtured by resting in Jesus, but also through obedience to Jesus' command. Now, what is obedience to Jesus' command? You might be thinking, great, Matt, do I have to go into full-time ministry, plant a church, and have my Instagram feed be nothing but Jesus stuff? Is that what this is? No. You could, but no. Last week, we talked about the first of the fruits of the Spirit. And what was that? Love. It was love. And if you know Jesus' teachings in the Gospels, what is Jesus' one and only command? Love. His one and only command is love Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So obedience to Jesus' command is a life of pursuing sacrificial love. That's part of how we, as followers of Jesus, nurture this biblical joy by giving ourselves over to this life of sacrificial love, loving other people the way they need to be loved at cost to ourselves. And part of how this nurtures joy is because a life of sacrificial, cruciform love is a life that is beautiful. A life of cruciform, sacrificial, others-oriented love is a life that's satisfying. A life of cruciform, sacrificial love is a life that is meaningful. And I can think of nothing that cultivates joy more than at the end of the day, being able to put my head on the pillow, knowing that I am living a life of beauty, meaning, and purpose. And that's what Jesus says. Pursue my command. And my command is to love. And that's how we grow joy. We live in a world that says, hey man, you want to be happy? Bro, you are your own vine. You're your own vine. You're your own vine. Go out and produce the fruit that makes you happy. That doesn't work. You want to have joy? Forget yourself. Take your eyes off of yourself. Find yourself in the love that God has for you in Jesus. And then focus yourself on sharing a similar life of love with others. That's it. Now, why is this conversation so important? Why is it important that we talk about this promise of joy, this buoyant joy that makes us resilient, that can carry us through all these kinds of things? Why is it important that we have this conversation? It's important that we have this conversation because we live in a world that is filled with sorrow. You saw it this week. We saw it in weeks prior. You're going to see it in upcoming weeks, sadly. You're going to see evil and awful things on display, on the news, in your home, in your heart. It's going to be all over the place. And what that does is it stirs anger and anxiety inside of us. But what it really does is it fills us with sorrow. And when we chase after things, when we build our lives on things that aren't the gifts of God in Jesus Christ, what we find is that the second tragedy occurs or something evil comes in front of our eyes, that whatever peace and joy we've been able to manufacture is quickly snuffed out. And all that remains is the sadness and the sorrow. So what we need is something that is not snuffed out or quieted by the sorrows of this life, but in fact can endure alongside the sorrows of this life. And that is one of the great promises of the joy that Jesus gives to us, is that it can coexist with the pains and the problems and the sorrows of this life. It is not shaken by them. It is not dissolved or eradicated or erased by them. It can be sustained in the midst of them. Joy of Jesus can coexist with sorrow. It doesn't disappear when life is difficult. And the reason it doesn't disappear is because your joy in Jesus is not built on any of your effort. It is built on Jesus, who in his death on the cross and in his rise from the grave has confronted and defeated the source of all sorrow. In Jesus' death on the cross and his rise from the grave, he has confronted and defeated the source of every single one of your sorrows. And he's promised that one day he's going to return and he's going to eradicate all sorrow for all time. Which means even though terrible things happen, you're able to hold on to this joy. This joy, rather, has a hold of you. And even as you nurture it by resting in Jesus and growing in grace and gratitude and pursuing love, this joy doesn't go anywhere when evil happens. And so what you're able to do is you're able to be confronted with evil, death, violence, brokenness, despair. And you're able to call it what it is, feel it, but also proclaim to it that you belong to someone who is stronger than it. Man, this week I saw some things that I never wanted to see. I saw yet again, kids running for their life out of a school because somebody ran in with a gun. And that made me angry. But it didn't steal my joy. My anger was alongside of my joy, and in my joy I was able to say, I hate this, but I belong to a vine. I am connected to a vine that is stronger than this. I'm scrolling through my social media feed and I see imagery of a girl be attacked on a bus and killed, and nobody helps. Like, nobody helps. Nobody. And that filled me with rage. Alongside my rage was joy. And I know it doesn't seem like those things can go together, but alongside my rage was joy, a joy that said, I hate this, I hate this. I'm so glad that I belong, I am attached to, I am resting in a vine that has conquered this. I'm scrolling through my social media. Maybe that's the problem. And I see a video of a guy that some people love and some people hate, sitting in front of thousands of college students. And I didn't know I was going to watch a man die, but I watched a man die. Maybe you saw that video too, and I wish I'd never saw it. And it made me so, so sad. And maybe it made you sad too. But alongside that sadness, there's this joy, and I know it doesn't seem like those things can go together, but alongside that sadness, there's this joy, and I'm able to look at that, and I can say, this makes me so sad, so scared, to be honest with you, and so angry, and yet, I am so glad that I am connected to a vine who is stronger than that. Jesus, in John chapter 16, he keeps talking about joy, but he comes at it from a different angle, and he uses the analogy of childbirth. And I think it's helpful. Look at what Jesus says. He says, a woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. So it is with you. Now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. Somebody's got a Bible with them, an actual paper Bible with them, and those are words that need to be underlined. No one will take away your joy. Now, Jesus, the immediate context here, Jesus is talking about his impending death and resurrection. But it also applies to us who are awaiting his return. What he's saying is, followers, disciples, life is like childbirth. There is immense pain, but then the child is born, and the joy of the child overwhelms it. Now, moms, tell me, is that true? Is there pain in childbirth? So I've been told. There is pain in childbirth, but then the baby is placed in your arms, and is there joy? There is joy, and the joy, does it overshadow the pain, at least for a moment? Yes, the joy overshadows the pain. Now, is the pain still there? Yes, but there is a joy that you've received that overshadows and overwhelms it, and even, you could say, makes the pain what? Worth it. What is Jesus saying here? He's saying there is sorrow in this life, but the joy that I give to you can exist right alongside of it and even make it worth it and can give you peace in the middle of it. Some of you are here today and you are really struggling. And I need you to hear this. Now is the time of your grief. Now is the time of your grief. But no one can steal your joy. Because your joy is not a product of your circumstances. It is not measured by your emotions. It is not tied to your bank account. It is not subject to the winds of this world. Your joy is a crucified, resurrected, and returning Jesus who loves you, who has forgiven you, who has chosen you, and who is coming back for you. That is your joy. And no one can steal it, because no one and nothing can conquer him. What image comes to mind when you think of joy? For me, it's this. I grew up in the middle of Michigan in an old farmhouse. And in that farmhouse, there was a basement. Here in Houston, we don't really know what basements are. It's a hole in the ground, and your house is built on top of it. And in that basement was a behemoth of a cast iron furnace. A furnace that glowed red hot and put out enough heat to melt the ice cream sandwiches in the freezer upstairs. And we needed that furnace because in the middle of Michigan, the winters could get cold and the winds would whip and it would be 22 degrees and you'd be in a drafty old farmhouse, but then all of a sudden, the furnace would kick on and there would be a rumbling beneath your feet. And a very warm wind would start to whip through the house, and it would thaw your bones and give you goosebumps. And before you knew it, you felt comfortable and maybe even a little drowsy. You and I live in a very cold world. It is a wonderful world. But right now, it is winter in Wonderland. And the winds whip, and the temperature drops. And your house is drafty. But remember, there is a furnace of joy rumbling beneath your feet that is fueled by grace undeserved, by forgiveness, by the love of God, by all of the promises of Jesus Christ, and the fact of his victory over sin and death and his imminent return. It is fueled by all of those things, and it brings a warm wind into your cold home and this cruel world. Feel the warmth that is the joy of Jesus. Rest in it. Grow in grace and gratitude that comes from him. And seek to share some of that warmth and love like him. It tends to make your home and the world and your heart a warmer place. And know that there is coming a day. There is coming a day where that wind will blow, not just through your home, but through this world. And this world will be filled with warmth. It will be filled with joy. Come quickly, Lord Jesus. Amen.